Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now today I wanted to talk about something else to do with relationships as compared to what I started talking about earlier in the week. And this kind of expands on some stuff that I touched on there and that I've touched on elsewhere as well. But I wanted to focus on it purely because it is such a core, important part that people miss so often when it comes to their relationships, especially their romantic relationships. And it's something that what I cannot stress enough is by far probably the most important long-term thing to keep in mind in regards to a relationship. And lots of people are thinking, is he talking about communication again? No, I'm not. Actually, there's a big part of this that is built around communication. But what I'm actually talking about is learning. And I'm talking about learning not just about the world and big ideas and new skills and all that kind of thing, but I'm talking about learning about your partner. Because people change over time and you need to be able to learn about those changes anyway, just to maintain a kind of level of stability and a quieter life. You know, people's situations change, that then changes them, and then that's going to cascade onto you, and you need to be able to pick that up and roll with it and learn more. But also just learning about how your partner experiences life demonstrates so much more than anything else. And one of the main things, one of the things that I've heard, which definitely makes me kind of go, this is possibly one of the most important things you can say to someone that you actually care about, and that is when you have people turning around and going, saying directly to their significant other, teach me. Teach me how to best love you, to best care about you. What do you want? Yeah? And actually having that conversation between the two of you, drawing those boundaries to one extent or another, so that then also this ties into kind of personal strength and responsibility within your relationship. Because obviously, if you've got those boundaries in place, if you've got that understanding, and if you know how your significant other wants to be treated in specific situations, something's gone wrong at work for your significant other. They come home and they're in a foul mood. And they don't want to take it out on you, but you're right there and you're asking them questions and you're poking and prodding. If you've talked to them about how they want to be loved, how they want to be cared about, how they want to be understood, then you know what to do when they come home. One of those many situations that I hear time and time again is that so and so has come back and they from work and they are stressed. They had a miserable day and it just made everything horrible. Everybody was miserable for the rest of the day because we were snapping at each other. Even the cat and the dog decided to go and hide because they just didn't want to deal with our human shit for the day. And it becomes a case of going, well, if I do with my girlfriend what I do with my clients, and just from the outset, just ask, how do you want me to deal with you in this situation? For a client, I turn around and I'm like, so there will be times when you fail. There will be times when you do not do well and you need to be held accountable because of either it was your fault or because we need the information, even if it's something that that isn't the most comfortable in bringing up. We need that information to then look at the way forward to progress. And it becomes, okay, so difficult conversations are going to have to be had. I might have to tell you off. I might have to hold you to account and call you on your bullshit. What do you want me to do? And in many instances, people are very much like, just have it out at me, be strict, be harsh, don't yell necessarily, because I wouldn't do that anyway. It's not constructive. But like being harsh, asking the hard questions, being blunt, being honest, those are the things that people tend to want in that situation. But there are some people who are like, Joe, I can't deal with people just throwing stuff at me or trying to take power over me. I'm one of these people, to be fair. And so when it comes to being given options to advance, it needs to be on my terms, and I can't just be held accountable or complained at. I need to be able to go, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to be honest, and you're going to keep me honest, but then I'm the one that has to be harsh on me. I'm the one that has to be hard on me, not you. Now, shift that across into a relationship setting again for a moment. If I've asked my partner how they want to be treated, if there's a way that I can help, how they would like me to help, all of those kind of things, then I know that when they're stressed or they're upset, then that's the way that I need to be there to deal with them. Yeah, fine, I'm upset, but I don't need you to offer suggestions, I just need you to cuddle me and listen. Okay, sure, I can do that. No, I can't adult at the moment, I actually need help. When I get like that, I need you to sit me down, give me a quick smack and tell me to get on with it. It's like, right, okay, that I can do. And then, relationships should be two-way. They should be asking you those questions back. And we're not very good at talking about ourselves. We're not always very good at understanding ourselves either. And that's also a big part that comes into people's changing lives. We might say to our partner, if they ask this question, I need you to do X, Y, and Z if I do A, B, and C. Fair enough. But we're not very good at completely understanding ourselves, at predicting and forecasting what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and how we're going to feel, or to what extent. I did a video on this not so long ago. And so when it comes to those things in life that your partner wants to support you on, or that you want to support your partner on, it becomes a case of also learning how to learn from them without asking questions, without them telling you. Because checking in on people, that's fine. No one should ever get particularly upset with you just for going, hey, you okay? Like, maybe it might get a bit tiresome if you're doing it every few minutes, but at the same time, if it's a case of someone's just staring off into the distance and you go over and check on them, no one should get upset about that. That's you showing concern and care for that person. That's fairly straightforward. But then when it comes to the relationship side of things, sometimes questions are hard to answer, especially if they're in a state where they don't even know the answer. And so it becomes a case of people going, that's one of the other issues that you see in things like divorces, where you've got people going, oh, they wouldn't talk to me. I was trying so hard and they just wouldn't talk and I just got sick of it. It's like, sometimes people can't talk. Sometimes learning is much more of a passive thing where you have to relax, you have to take a step back, you have to be that little bit more impersonal. At least in your awareness of that individual, so that you can pick up on things, so you can analyze what they're doing and how they're doing it, so that you can then actually engage with them in a meaningful way, in a way that makes more sense and is helpful to them, rather than a way that might cause more stress. There was a male client that I had a while ago. His other half wanted him to talk more, and he couldn't articulate it because he didn't know what was wrong. He was having a stressful time in his life. He was having to shift between one university course and another, whilst holding down a full-time job. And he was having real issues with articulating the things that were really impacting him, because he was happy that he had this full-time job, he could afford things, he was happy that he was moving from one uni course that he wasn't as engaged with to one that he was much more engaged with, and then everything otherwise seemed to be turning up really well for him, but there was still something bothering him, and he was finding it very hard to put his finger on it. And what he needed was time and space to work out how he was thinking, how he was feeling, so he could come out the other side and then actually communicate what was wrong and how he needed support and how it could be dealt with. But every day he was instead getting much more in the way of negativity and things like that. In his particular instance, especially through some of the discussions that I had with him, he was able to develop some strategies in regards to how he would approach communicating with her, with his other half, and how that would then develop into greater understanding between the two of them that would allow him the space to then develop and articulate what he was actually feeling so that he could move forward. And, you know, at the time he had me as a coach as well to help filter out some of that stuff, and kind of break it down for him. But again, I wasn't able to offer half as much of the support that he really wanted and needed as his partner was. And so her having that moment of learning, him having that moment of learning in regards to how he could approach the discussions and how he could allow himself the extra space, or ask her to allow him the extra space. It was learning on both their parts that then allowed for this greater development to come out the other end. And as far as I'm aware, granted I've not been in contact with this individual for a while, but as far as I'm aware, they're still both doing very well and they're still together. So it becomes a case of learning from your environment that you're in, learning from your partner and learning about your partner, but also learning about yourself and how you can interact. Like, I feel like the people who go, communication is the core of great relationships. It is, but communication can be incredibly hard. There are an awful lot of shy, nervous, uncertain people these days. And even I've gone and said communication is incredibly important, but then I've tried to go, this is how you do it. And if you're interested in some of those videos, they're in playlists on the channel anyway. I'm sure that I'll do more of those at some point in the future as well. But in regards to this specific idea of kind of loving is learning. Caring for someone else is developing greater understanding and a knowledge base for you to draw from when it comes to interacting with those people. And that includes learning the best ways to interact and how best to interact. Because just saying you need to be a great communicator, you can be a great communicator. You can be able to stand up in front of a lot of people, convey an awful lot of information, have them all engaged and take it in, but then that doesn't make it easier when it comes down to kind of interacting with someone on a much more direct and emotionally clouded level. It can throw everything out the window. There have been public speakers, people that I've worked with who have been managers with so much passion, so much charisma, so much confidence, able to win over an entire team of new recruits to the vision and the way that the company wanted to work, so that they were all ready and rearing to go. And yet then, spinning it round, you would get those people on a one-to-one interaction with their partner, or even a one-to-one interaction with certain members of the team that they found somewhat unnerving or intimidating. And that person would have a much harder time, because sometimes we have strengths that are very similar to our weaknesses. And it becomes that balancing act and trying to use those skills in a transferable way between those two things so that you can come out stronger overall. You know, feeling the fear and doing it anyway, you know, to quote the title of a book on that particular subject. But as said, loving is learning. I'd love to know what you guys would consider to be some of the biggest things that you've learned through your relationships. Be it either failed relationships that you learned from so that they weren't a missed opportunity, or things that you've learned, not specific things that you've learned necessarily about your partner, that probably shouldn't be online, but in regards to about yourself, how to communicate better, how you want to be treated, how they want to be treated, and how you actually broached all of that in the first place. You know, there are so many different people on the planet and we all interact in so many different ways that when it comes to these sorts of very close and intimate interactions, they can be incredibly difficult. You know, I tend to communicate in a blunt and direct fashion, and I much prefer cutting to the chase, but that doesn't always go down well, you know, and so I try to be tactful. I try to keep in mind who I'm dealing with, and if I wasn't able to do that, then I wouldn't be a particularly good coach. But looking at others, they don't necessarily have that awareness. Tact is a thing that a lot of young people, especially that I've worked with or that I know, just do not have. And and for better or worse, to be fair, sometimes tact is overrated, but in many instances a lack of tact puts people on edge. But anyway, I'm rambling. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences, guys, and otherwise thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you found this at all interesting or useful, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the video later. Take care.